Ian Cook has been fighting a battle for justice and to clear his name for the past 2 years. Ian's highly successful catering company, iCook Foods, became the target of a campaign designed to collapse the business, and it's worked. For over 40 years, Ian ran iCook Foods until he was set up by alleged criminal elements within the Dandenong City Council and the state government, with the planting of a slug on his factory floor. Thanks for coming back and joining us again, Ian.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Now, last week, the parliamentary inquiry into what's been termed Sluggate, it began, and you were the star witness. How do you think it went, and how do you think it's going?
I would have said that last week was fairly predictable. We revisited the evidence, or the new evidence that had come up, which is why it was reopened. There were a number of members of the committee that were effectively trying to be apologists for the Department of Health and Human Services, Dr. Sutton, and employees of the City of Greater Dandenong. But where we saw lies, mistruths, etc., we called them out on it, and that's all we can do. I'd also like to point out to everyone that people talk about parliamentary privilege in these committees. A point that I would like to make is myself and the people that are beside me, we don't need parliamentary privilege. Everything we tell you is the truth. The people who need parliamentary privilege are the people who are trying to mislead and lie to the committee.
Definitely, and you definitely set the cat amongst the pigeons, but you've done so right from the start, and as you clearly say, your accusations of criminal collusion are aimed right at Brett Sutton. Do you think Sutton's starting to feel the pressure?
I mean, obviously, I don't know exactly what he is thinking. I certainly hope so. I'm hoping, though I think it's possibly maybe a fool's errand, that he has some morality left in him and that he'll come out and tell the truth. I don't think that's realistic, but that is my hope.
He's up before the inquiry today. If he didn't feel the heat last week, how much do you think the temperature is going to rise for him today?
Well, once again, all I can say is it's a hope from our point of view that members of the committee who realise that they've been misled and lied to will question him thoroughly. What we saw yesterday with the City of Greater Dandenong is there are quite a few members of the committee who have no interest in getting to the truth or exposing the lies. So they're just giving them Dorothy Dixer type questions that they can easily bat back. I'm hoping that there will be a proportion of members of the committee today that will ask direct and specific questions that show the lies and the misrepresentations of not just Dr. Sutton, but Dr. Bone, Pauline Maloney, Paul Goldsmith. They're all witnesses, and they have all done. They've all been part of the cover-up and the criminality of this affair.
Over the last 2 years, you've obviously had a huge impact on yourself, your family, your staff, the families of the staff. How does it feel now that it's actually in front of the Parliament and things are going along? Has it started to ease some of that pressure, or has it just intensified it?
I think, like when it first happened, it was an incredibly emotional time. You know, we were accused of killing someone. We were told we were dead to rights. We were then on charges. I mean, it was about 10, 12 months of, very anxious and a horrible time. And like you said, it's not just about Ian. It's also my son, my wife, my daughter, my parents. They were all living this nightmare with us, as were many of our staff. I mean, the day that we came out of court, which was the 3rd of October 2019, when all the charges were withdrawn, my admin manager just broke down.
I've seen you speak many times, Ian, and nearly every time you've mentioned Ingrid and the impact it's had on her family and your staff. It's moved you to tears, which has actually moved me to tears. How do you think Victorians can actually trust or hold any faith in Brett Sutton, given what's happened?
Oh, look, you got to remember that the evidence we have about Brett Sutton is conclusive. It's not hearsay. It's not circumstantial. It is clear proof from their own words, their own documents. If you have a look at the Herald Sun ran an article today where Dr. Bone, who attended the inquiry with Sutton last year, she wrote to Sutton in an email that night. I have it here somewhere. She wrote to him at 8:09 p.m. and she said, this is the 22nd, this is the day he closed us. She said, key bits of information shared and decisions made. That's the last part of the sentence. Then there's a heading, Knox Private. That's the hospital. No records of what foods eaten by patients. Sutton's told this and he keeps me closed. He closes me for listeria. He puts in an illegal listeria management plan, an unlawful one. He's got no power to do the things he's done. And he knows from his own deputy that there's no evidence to support what he's doing. Now, we didn't make this up. This is their emails. This is their words to each other. So no, anybody who trusts this chief health officer, seriously, they should be frightened, very frightened, because the decisions he makes are about him, his position, his welfare, his job, has nothing to do with anybody else.
That's a very interesting and pertinent point you make there, Ian. So he obviously has the backing of Andrews, and Andrews continues to stand by him. Do you think that Andrews is aware of all this? And it's either, if he's not, it raises some serious issues, and if he is, it also raises those same issues, wouldn't it?
Yeah, mate, my understanding is nothing happens in Victoria without it being micromanaged by Daniel Andrews. Andrews knows what's going on. And the other thing too is the powers under the emergency powers that we're under at the moment under the Public Health and Wellbeing Act, those emergency powers are for Dr. Sutton. The press conferences and the decisions made shouldn't be by Daniel Andrews. They're supposed to be made by Sutton. And yet we see press conference after press conference when he just stands behind him. And so I'd argue they're probably not even following their own emergency legislation properly.
Now, yesterday at the press conference in front of Parliament House there, we had ex-Chief Commissioner Cal Blair. I asked him the question, do you think that Professor Sutton should face jail time given the evidence that Cal Blair has been privy to? Do you recall what Cal Blair said?
Yes, Cal Blair thinks that there should be charges laid.
Now, that's a fairly...
I mean, yeah, what you have to take here is the role of the police is not the role of the court. In other words, the role of the police is to come up with a prima facie case, which is Latin for on the face of it. Well, all of the information and evidence is there to show that on the face of it, Professor Sutton and others have acted criminally. Now, what has to happen is a brief of evidence needs to be put together. They should be given an opportunity to put their side of the facts to the police, and then a court needs to make a decision. That's all there is to it. It is the court that comes up with beyond reasonable doubt, not the police. And
the police originally weren't really too enthusiastic. It got shuffled around, you mentioned, and now I think yesterday's press conference there was a statement that search warrants have been issued and documents seized?
Yes, that's correct. That's my understanding.
And will they be before the inquiry, or is that still just a police matter?
Oh, no, yes. The inquiry and the police are two separate issues, but in their own ways, they are issues that should be showing or getting to the heart of the matter, and that we should be seeing some sort of justice occurring.
And at the inquiry yesterday, Elizabeth Garlick appeared from wherever she's been. How do you think she presented, Ian?
I think she was well rehearsed. I think it was all scripted. The thing I did find extraordinary, not just from her, but from Benny and from Leanne Johnson, was they actually admitted to criminal activity. So let me tell you, they told everyone that listened to it, they said that they edited the body camera footage to take out personal conversations. Point one, I've seen that footage now. There are no personal conversations. Point two, it doesn't matter what you call them. If you edit or modify a video of evidence that's being used in a criminal matter, then you have broken the law. You break the Evidence Act and you break the Crimes Act, and these are serious offences. It's actually, I've just been informed, it's actually Section 464 of the Crimes Act. You cannot do it. Tampering with evidence is a crime, and all three of them admitted to tampering with evidence. They tried to do it to justify it, which means that corroborates what Rogerson said. She saw them tampering with evidence. Yesterday, they told you they tampered with evidence. I mean, what more do these committee people need?
We've seen some other inquiries, and mainly the Coates inquiry, where everyone had selective amnesia, and it became a farce. Do you have any fears that this inquiry will go that way, Ian, or are you happy with the way it's progressing?
Well, yesterday we saw that John Benny suffered from what I refer to as Coate amnesia, when he couldn't remember as a board member why Community Chef needed $800,000 in 2019. So, yes, I've got no doubt that recollections will be vague. But I will be very interested to see, because in the first inquiry, Dr. Sutton and Dr. Bone apparently remembered with pinpoint accuracy everything that happened to us. Now, that was 18 months earlier. When the Coate inquiry was on, the issues it was discussing were only 4 months old, but everybody had forgotten everything. So what we know of these bureaucrats and this government is if they can't think of some spin or a lie to cover it, then they'll just forget. And you know what? The public will make their own mind up about these things. It won't be just whatever I think.
You've got some backing of some fairly prominent and well-respected police that have been with you all the way on this, Ian. How did that come about?
I wish I could tell you. I thank God that I've got them, and it is quite extraordinary how these things fall into place. So if you believe in karma, it's karma. If you believe in the universe, it's that. If you believe in physics, and for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, what's happened is these guys have come out as a power of good against, without being melodramatic, some serious evil.
I forget who said it. There's a great saying I love: the truth is like a lion. Set it free, it doesn't need to defend itself. It'll do okay on its own. It really seems like that's the case. That's
right, yes, but a lie needs constant management. And lies are like tripwires. Everyone you tell, that's another tripwire down. And then when you try and go back over or explain yourself, you start to set them off. And that's what we saw yesterday with Leanne Johnson. When Leanne Johnson was lined up, she has seen Christie's report. Christie was categorical that they discussed the report in the meeting. When she was when she was called out on that, because the committee had her handwritten notes that showed she knew what was going on, then she couldn't answer it. She tried to bumble it, and she tried to divert, and yeah, so it's all there in front of everyone.
And we need to be clear here. We're not just talking about Brett Sutton and the underlings at Greater Dandenong City Council. This goes all the way up to Andrews, because Community Chef was originally set up by Andrews, wasn't it?
Correct.
So we've got two of the most senior people in the Victorian government with vested interests in seeing this inquiry either go nowhere or go away.
Yes, so yes, it was set up. So back in 2009 or 8-9, Anthony Albanese, as the Minister for Infrastructure, gave $9 million. Without that $9 million, Community Chef would never have started. They had to have that first. Andrews then, and they called it a loan. So for the people listening to this podcast, if you ever want to start a business, this is the sort of loan you want. They get a loan from the state government of $6 million on top of the 9. Now, that loan is from the Department of Health and Human Services, and the minister at the time is Daniel Andrews. That loan works like this. You get it and it's interest-free. Well, that's not bad. You don't have to make any payments. It actually pays itself off. All you have to do is keep the business running. And then in 20 years' time, it's all forgiven. Now, it was at about the 10-year mark that it was wound up in 2019, 2020, given it started 9-10, which means technically all those councils that left, or about 14 of them, they owed the state government, through their ratepayers, over $3 million. Never paid. So just free money on free money on free money.
Good work if you can get it.
Yeah, well, the problem with that is that sooner or later, once governments start doing those sorts of things, they're spending other people's money. And the problem is that sooner or later, you run out of other people's money to spend. Now,
the inquiry continues today. What should we be looking for, and what are you most looking for in today's inquiry?
You know, altruistically, I would just like to tell the truth. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm hoping that that the committee members that know the truth are able to ask the questions to expose it and to prevent the lies from continuing. You know, you're talking, the whole lot goes in terms of millions of dollars that's been wasted. There's this huge cover-up after destroying 41 jobs. And I think, from my own point of view, whether it's this or the police, now the police, there's separation of powers, so the police should be acting completely independently on their own. And you have a parliamentary inquiry that's also looking into these matters. And if you like, unfortunately, that's political as well. So it will only happen if there's a majority of members decide to make it happen. So I think that's what we need to be scrutinising.
The retention of power, and I hate to say it, but the lack of any real meaningful opposition seems to embolden them a great deal at the moment, Ian.
Yes, look, I think there is some very good opposition there. Sure, the numbers are down, but there are people there that are asking clear, hard questions, as long as they're not sidelined. I mean, we need to watch what's happening and I certainly hope the chair doesn't sideline the members that want to ask the questions that need to be asked. This is about justice. This is about people knowing the truth. This isn't like a civil case about money or anything else. This is about getting to the truth and the justice of the matter. And once that happens and people are held to account, then myself and all my employees can start the healing process.
Not only that, Ian, it also stops it from happening again, because if we don't pull this up now, what's to stop them doing it again and again?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I've said on many occasions that if you don't do it, they will be emboldened and off they'll do. Nobody will be safe.
All right, Ian, we're going to have you back again tomorrow so that we can digest and watch the inquiry today when we see Sutton up. So I'm really looking forward to that and getting your take on it today. So thanks again for your time, Ian.
No problem at all. Always good to talk.